The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
PhoneGate has descended upon Mullins' world, and it's made even worse by the fact that his son wanted an Apple. No! Did he get an iPhone?
No.
Oh. He's just made head boy. He's so good for Albs. He's made head boy. He's excelled in every way. All he says is, "Dad, can I have an iPhone?"
Yeah, but that's not how it went.
Oh.
So it was a much more convoluted story than that. So I said to him, Albie, put your name down for head boy and for forest school leader. And he said,
"For what? Forest school leader?
Forest school, yeah.
What's that?
They have the forest school. They've got this plot of land where they have they grow things and they farm and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that sounds good.
And it's called forest school.
Yeah,
so
that sounds good. Yep.
They have a forest school leader and they have captain and they have all of that kind of. So it's this week where they picked all those things. So I said to him, Albie, if you're brave and you go for a couple of things, then I'll buy you something. And he really had his eye on my microphone, my Shure SM USB thing, which is about £200.
I'll buy you something.
Yeah. So he said, "Oh, do you think I could have one of those microphones?"
Yeah.
And he caveated that with, "Not your one though. I don't want you to just get me an empty box and put your one in it."
Yeah, he knows about Boxgate.
And so I said, "Yeah, okay. Listen, that's the deal. Okay, I promise you." So he ran in yesterday, really excited, come home from school. I got head boy, and I was like, "Oh, bless him." So I ordered him one of those from the internet, a brand new one.
Yeah.
2 seconds after I'd ordered it, he rang me up. He said, "I changed my mind. I want a phone." So I cancelled that order, and then we went through the whole phone conversation. You can get me an iPhone 8 for £200.
Yeah.
And I don't think so, Albs. He said, yeah, you can. Look, I can see. I'll show it you when you get home. So get home. And of course, it's £200 plus £45 a month or whatever the contract is.
So that was the end of the Apple iPhone for Albie.
That was the end of that. Yeah. So I've got my Android.
I'm an Android now.
The FujiCast.
We bought you a can, son, with a 500-foot string attached to it. And if you want to phone your mates, that they have to be within 500 feet of you. Shout loudly. But that's fantastic, though. He made head boy. He must be very proud.
I'm really proud of him. Really proud.
Who got forest leader? Do you know?
I don't know who got forest school leader. Don't know. Actually.
Oh, head boy's got a trump forest school leader, surely.
I know one of his best friends, Chick, Charlotte got school team sports captain, which is nice also.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well done, Alps. Welcome to the FujiCast. As always, you and your questions from the mailbag. You can send them in by Facebook. Kev reads the Facebook questions. Or you can send them in to the email address, click at fujicast.co.uk, and I get to those. We've also got some patron messages this week, haven't we, Kev?
Yeah, we've got some bump to the front.
Some bump to the fronts.
Yeah.
And a book of the week. Oh, guest of the week. Well, guest and book. Let's deal with guest first. The guest is Anna McCarthy. And I always want to do a jingle when I say Anna's name. You know, like Linda McCartney. Do you remember that advertising campaign for Linda McCartney's Foods?
Yeah.
Anna McCarthy fits in that perfectly. Anna McCarthy. She should have
Anna McCarthy photography.
Well, I was thinking more about the vegetarian line of foods, but Anna. But the reason we're talking to Anna is because, or you're talking to Anna, is because she shot your wedding. And I was a bit unsure about it to start with, Kev, because I wasn't sure whether it might end up being what does it feel like to photograph international superstar man of the stage Kevin Mullins' wedding? But it's not like that at all, having heard it.
No, of course. And I never wanted it. I wanted it to be a conversation between the two of us about what it's like to photograph somebody else's wedding.
Yeah.
That was the conversation. Not about me.
And it worked well, I think. And she clearly had a good time doing it.
Yeah, of course.
So that's coming up. And book of the week. I mean, if you were playing your ace cards now, Kev, you've played them. You've played them all with this book. Yeah,
we've got Genesis, Sebastiào Salgado's Genesis, and it's been on my shelf for this is the first edition, I think. Wow. So I've had it for a long time. I got it at the exhibition. I went to London with Peter Pryor. Do you remember Peter Pryor?
I do. Peter Pryor picked a peck of pickled peppers.
Peter Pryor, photographer.
Yes. Of course I do.
I went there with him, and I picked it up then when it was first released, or this kind of format of it. It's massive, absolutely massive hardback, huge thing, and it's been on my shelf for ages. And I thought, we haven't talked about this book yet. No, so here we are.
Wasn't there a really, really huge, humongous, big version as well?
Yeah, it was in a glass table.
That's right.
It came in a glass table, yeah, and it was about $7,500.
And I don't think you were allowed to touch it unless you had white gloves on. You didn't you get to touch it?
I saw it. I'm not sure I actually touched it.
I thought you got.
I saw it. Yeah,
you were allowed to sort of don't touch the book.
That's definitely not the one that I've got.
Was it £7,500? Cool.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember, but it was. Yeah, it was. Wow. It was several thousand. Yeah.
If you're a real collector, worth and you have that dosh, worth
that space
and that space. Yes, you'd need a. Actually, it wouldn't fit on any. Well, you'd need its own glass cabinet. Does it come with a glass cabinet?
Yeah, it came with its own table.
Oh, does it?
It was incredible in this glass unit. Yeah, amazing thing.
So it comes with the table. Oh.
Yeah, a lockable glass cover that you kind of open like a cupboard, and then you can put your gloves on and have a wangle through it.
You'd want it to be locked, wouldn't you? Because can you imagine? You know, you've left it open, and all your kids' mates have come round. They've been eating ice creams and Marmite sandwiches, and they're pouring through this book saying, look at this, all the pages stuck together.
Yeah, all the dogs. That would be my worst.
Yeah, oh God, can you imagine Monty?
He gets hold of it. And Monty would take one sniff of it and think, oh, I must urinate on that. Smells interesting. I'll sniff a thing, I'll piss on it. I'll sniff a thing, I'll piss on it. That's his life. I don't know where it all comes from.
Oh, poor old Git.
Doesn't drink any water.
I definitely think Git would look at it and think, oh, that looks expensive. I'll have a go at that.
Yeah. Sniff it first.
How many of your books has Monty eaten?
2. He's had a go at 2 of them. But only when he was a puppy. He doesn't do it now.
We are thinking about getting a dog, by the way.
Oh, are you? Yeah. What type?
Well, I think it's a cockapoo.
My sister's got a cockapoo.
It needs to be not too large, but not too small. And it needs to be hypoallergenic, easy for me to say, so that Jack can deal with it. Otherwise, it's going to spend the next, however long, he stays until he goes off to uni or gets a job or whatever, with red eyes. So it had to be something that wouldn't make his eyes
My sister's implode. One is reasonably big, I would say.
No.
It's bigger than my Whippet.
Really?
Stuff.
That can't be a cockapoo then, can it? Or do they must be
it is.
Different flavours.
Cockapoo is one of those ones they made in a lab, isn't it? It's not a real dog. It's like they made it up. It's for...
Well, yeah, it's a crossbreed, isn't it? A crossbreed? Is that what they...
It was designed for the tractor drivers of West London, wasn't it, cockapoos?
Were they?
It's a design dog, yeah.
I know. Well, I know it's one of those... Yeah, I know it is, but they're blooming expensive, Kev.
Yeah, well, that's because they also go to tractor drivers in West London.
Yeah, but I thought...
My sister's one was... I mean, she bought it in the height of lockdown,
Oh,
so
yeah, more expensive
then. But yeah, I mean, a couple of thousand, I think, for one of them.
It'd be cheaper to get a horse.
Yeah, no, it's not actually.
That's true. Right, questions. Let's. Do you want to start with the bump to the front one then?
Yeah. Okay. So Patreon. We've got a couple of new patrons that I'll give a shout out to as well. So thank you very much for supporting us on Patreon. Tom Shaw, John Taylor, Steve Pereira, Martin Pendry, and Chris Gale. And one of your benefits of being a patron, in fact, your only benefit of being a patron at the moment, is that you get bumped to the front with your questions.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, and this one came in, I don't know, about an hour ago. So there you go. It doesn't get much more bump to the front than that.
That's fresh.
And this is from Jeremiah Trujillo. Oh, you taught me about this before we went online.
I think it's Trujillo.
Trujillo.
Yeah.
Jeremiah. I'm just going to call him Jeremiah. Hello, gents. I randomly found your podcast in my search to find a Fujifilm community, and your passion for photography is inspiring and challenges me to go shoot daily. Anyway, I am from San Diego, California, and I mostly photograph documentary style of family in everyday life. My question is, do you have a tip or words of wisdom when developing your style / look? I have been photographing for 5 years, and I feel like I still lack a consistent look and feel to my photos.
Is 5 years enough to develop what you would call your ultimate style? I'm not sure it is.
Well, probably not. Yeah, I agree with that.
Because style or look is a constant dance of preference, really, isn't it? As you develop, I don't think you find it quickly. And do you think style is more about you than your pictures sometimes, Kev? As you mature and your approach to life and people and what's around you changes, so too obviously does your style.
Yeah, I think also there's a couple of strands to this, isn't there? There's style and kind of the way that you make your pictures look, which is more about processing style.
Yeah,
and that changes. For a long time I added that kind of subtle warmth to my black and whites, and I've moved away from that now. Yeah.
Why did you move away from that? What was because that is a style question, and that was very synonymous with Mullins.
Yeah, I think a couple of reasons really. I've just got sick of it, frankly. I think think that was it. Just wanted a little bit of a change. And that was it. Yeah, there's nothing more to it than that, really. I still sometimes, you know, when I'm doing edits and stuff like that, I still sometimes put them through that warm filter and then think, okay, maybe I'll do this one in the warm filter. But then usually I'll go back to the standard black and white right now. So that there's a processing style as well. But the shooting style, I think, is slightly different. And you know, we're forever looking at pictures on the internet, on websites, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, and thinking, oh, I wish I could do that, that particular style.
And I suppose that's a digital legacy thing, isn't it, really? That people think of style perhaps too much in terms of how it's post-processed.
Yeah, I think so. I was actually thinking about this in my recent run of millions of weddings. You know, what is it that I feel like the clients book me for?
Your eyebrows, maybe?
Yeah, my eyebrows and my dress sense, definitely my sparkling personality and my lovely white teeth. That's it. Yeah,
all those things.
That's the conclusion I came to as well.
It's sorted.
But no, I in the end, I just kind of came back to emotional pictures, and so that's really kind of galvanized me to concentrate on that a little bit more.
But throwing a spanner into the works there, though, Kev, it's difficult that, and I agree with you. I think that is what you're known for. I think the emotional pictures come through very well in your portfolio, and you put them on there because that's what you want people to buy you in for. But you can't always do that, can you? You and I and everybody knows that you will go to weddings where the emotion is not always as buoyant as your portfolio would have people believe.
True, absolutely, of course, yeah, definitely. Totally agree with that, 100%. But I think that's the same as being a street photographer who only shows epic, multi-layered images. You're always going to have kind of things like that. But I think if I was to define my style of wedding photography, at least, and maybe family stuff as well, I would, in one word, I would say emotional. So that's ultimately kind of what I aim for. But style-wise, in terms of trying to fit too many what's the term, shapes into squares into a circle, all that kind of stuff, it's what we're all guilty of trying to do. That we're all guilty of trying to be the best at everything, and actually just concentrate on the one thing that you like. And whether that's emotion, whether that's wide landscape type shots, whether that's humorous images, whatever, doesn't really matter. But the more you concentrate on it, the more it will be refined. But I don't think you'll ever have this is my style, and this is it forever.
Let's take Sebastiào Salgado, who most certainly you would say, oh, he has a style. But then if you looked at his pictures, you'd see those amazing, that cavernous shot of in the Arctic. I think it's taken in the Arctic, isn't it? That cathedral-looking ice. Is it ice flow? Or no, I suppose it's an iceberg. But you look at that, and that's a big vista, dramatic, environmental picture. But then you'll look sometimes at his portrait works, and it's entirely different, isn't it?
It is. But actually, that then comes down to his editing style, his processing style, his production. I should call his stuff really, rather than processing. But his production style is very similar, and so that's part of his style, isn't it? Yeah. So it's all encompassing, really. But I mean, going back to what you said at the beginning, style is very subjective, and you just have to things that when you look at a picture, you think, yeah, I really like that. Then just focus on that. Yeah. Forward, really.
And it's evolving. Conflict photographers are a perfect example of this. Their style changes so much as they, a lot of conflict photographers that I've spoken to will talk of how they started being really close in, really in the thick of it. I've got to get this action out. And then they stand back and they start to look at the whole scene and the context of it. Or maybe they'll look at small detail. I always remember Giles, my good pal Giles, talking about, one of the most infamous pictures he took was actually of a soldier's boot. And it wasn't all the pictures that he's taken of the action and the shooting and some of the horrific stuff that he's seen. It was a picture of a boot, and the reason why it was so controversial was that he'd managed to photograph it in a way that it showed a hole in the front of the boot, and that became were you sending the British Army out with holes in their boots? It became the picture that defined a particular style of his, which was finding a story within the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a boring picture, is it? That even though it sounds like quite a boring scene, it's not a boring picture. No. And ultimately, I think that's important. There's, if you just don't make boring pictures. There you go. How about that?
That could be your style. I don't make boring pictures, but you will. I think you'll just enjoy it and see it develop, pun intended, before your eyes. Right. Do we have any more bump to the front questions?
Oh, that's it. So you can remember, join Patreon, you get bumped to the front, and you will in the future when we do finally get the world back to 100% normality. When we start doing it, we've got some plans. Neil and I, we've got some plans. Secret plans.
Yeah. Do they involve iPhones?
No. But they do involve discounts for Patreon members.
That's true. Right, Marcus Cohen. Hello, chaps. Hope you're both well. QQ on lenses. I have 2 lenses, quick question that is, that I primarily use.
Yeah, thanks, Einstein. I wasn't sure what it meant.
Well, I know you know because we talk to each other with QQ language, but some people might be thinking, what is he talking about? QQ? An XF 23mm and an XF 56. 23 being the 1.4, 56 1.2. I'd like to upgrade one of them, but I can't decide which. I'd like the new 23mm lens, but I'd also like the 50mm f1, which I borrowed from Fujifilm a couple of weeks ago and was magnificent. I've shot a couple of weddings in the last few months, and it seems that I used the 23mm more than the 56. If it were you, which one would you upgrade first and why? To add, I have some low-light weddings coming up in the winter months, so that might have a bearing on choice. Well, I was going to suggest something different until he said the low-light weddings coming up in the winter months, and I just know the 23 is going to be more useful because, for a start, you're going to be inside a lot more. And if it's anything like a lot of the venues I go to, pandemic notwithstanding, you're going to be sort of squeezed into a smaller room trying to photograph over shoulders, aren't you, Kev?
Yeah, well, he answered his own question, really, when he said that the 23 is by far the most used lens that he uses.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. That answers it. However, there are some, as usual, caveats to this in that, yes, the new 23 1.4 is coming out, which I did some prototyping with, and it is phenomenal. It is. Right. It's basically the existing 23mm on steroids. It's just wonderful. The 50mm f1 is interesting because I have zero interest in that lens for some reason. I think almost definitely to do with the size. It's a big lens.
It's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, and what you have to remember is f1 might be useful in really low light, but you're going to have to be pin accurate with your focusing to ensure that it's not a little bit out. So for me, the 50 f1 is not an alternative to the 56 f1.2. I am very much encouraged by the fact that the 23, the 27, the 18 have all recently had upgrades or newer releases, which fingers crossed, and I have no insider information about this, but one would hope that the 56 being a stellar seller, that's a SS for those in the know, a stellar seller.
No, you don't want to use SS in the same.
A stellar seller is.
I like it though. It's got legs. That one. A stellar seller.
One would hope that that's on the internal roadmap for an update, and if they can make that 56 1.2, give it the same the same new pedal juice that they've stuck in those new 23, 18, 27s, then my word, that'll be worth waiting for. Now that's my long term.
Now there are two 56s here, aren't there? And sometimes we've talked about the difference between the two 56s.
Well, there's the APD version, which that's more for portrait photographers, a little bit cleaner, or a little bit kind of, I don't know whether it's cleaner or softer is the word, but depth of field, bokeh. Sorry, not depth of field, bokeh. They're both 1.2s. Yeah, so there you go. But the 56 1.2 is a big seller for Fujifilm, so I would hope that that's something in their armory.
And they're both the focal lengths that are sort of the staple dart of wedding photographers, really, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it's your 85-35 combo, isn't it? And then throw in the mix the new 18mm, which I've shot with a lot this month, and I'm absolutely in love with it.
Do you know, I noted that down here, Kev. I wrote it down as you were talking about that, and I forgot to mention it. I wondered whether the 18mm would take over from the 23, or whether it goes just a tinsy bit wide for you.
For me, I don't know. I did a blog post this week on f16.click with with a handful of pictures I took with the 18mm at weddings over the last week, and they are just wonderful. I always loved the 18 f2, but it was just a little bit too slow, and it was a mechanical lens, and it was just in low light, it just wasn't great. So I never really used it at weddings. But now this 18 1.4, it's a little bit big. Well, actually, it's massive compared to the 18 f2, but it's no bigger than like the 23mm lens.
18 f2 was a pancake lens,
practically.
Really.
But so I don't know. I mean, the 18 forces you to get a bit closer. Forced me to get a little bit closer. The benefit of the 18, of course, is that it's available now. You can get hold of it already. 23, the new 23 1.4 is coming out in believe at the end of November it's going to hit in stores. But you know what it's like. I couldn't even get any diesel petrol the other day because the bloody lorry drivers couldn't get there. So whether there'll be a delay.
You're not getting diesel now?
No, I couldn't get any diesel. I was going to a wedding the other day.
Yeah.
Stopped off at the petrol station. No diesel. I could get the super expensive diesel. You know, the ones that's like they just overcharge you for the same stuff.
Kev, it's not the same stuff, but.
And I said to the fella in the petrol station, "What's happening with the diesel?" He said, "Got no lorry drivers. Can't get you."
Wow.
Anyway, but there's delays on everything at the moment, isn't there? Chips and all that kind of stuff. Not chips as in fish and chips, but chips as in electric chips.
Yeah. Well, they're advertising a lot of jobs around here for lorry drivers at the moment.
Yeah,
and training you up.
There's a shortage.
Well, there's one company down the road now that it's not actually an HGV, it's an LGV now, isn't it? But people still refer to it as the HGV. But that are actually offering to pay you to do the training. I was very tempted for a minute. I thought, life on the road, I can see a podcast in this.
When I was a kid, one of the things I often wanted to do was be a long-distance lorry driver. I love that idea.
Romantic.
But actually, I've read, there was an article on the BBC a couple of weeks ago about, this shortage. And there was a lorry driver, and then he was like, it's been reasonably good because I've been able to double my rate, supply and demand. He said, it's a bloody awful job. Hate it. Sitting sitting in traffic all your life and, getting shouted at by other drivers, and you get sent to a place where you can't turn around and all that. I was like, yeah. Okay,
yeah, I could see that.
I won't do that.
But my next door neighbour has done his tests and stuff now, and he can do it. And he's also got his bus test during this time. He used to work in IT. So he's thinking about it, and he said, but I really want to work on the Arctics because with these smaller lorries, you have to unload and load. With the Arctics, you just sit there and somebody else does it for you.
I want to be on ice road truckers. That's what I want to do.
Ice road truckers. Yeah.
I want to drive across the Antarctic and have a really treacherous drive across breaking ice, which of course will never break. And it's never going to break because there's a film crew stood on it outside the lorry pretending it's breaking. and I want to do that, and I want to be outside in the cold and get into a really hot, warm cabin and have a hot chocolate or something. Yeah. That'd be ace. Although I hate hot chocolate, so that wouldn't be ace.
So I don't think it's the job for you then, Kev. Right. Thank you for your question there. Let's go for one from the Facebook group, shall we? Have you got
I literally have one. We've had one since last week.
No, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's it then. This is going to be a short show this week.
This will be our last show.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. We made 199.
And we won't. Yeah, that's it.
On the way out.
No, 200th will be the last next week.
Well, no, it'll have to be this one because we ain't got any questions now.
Well, we'll at least come back and say goodbye, though, wouldn't we, for 200th? Hello. We've got here. Goodbye.
Okay, so this question is from Michael Dries. He says, "Hi, I have an original X100 collecting dust on the shelf." So do I. Yeah. I have been seriously considering sending it off for a deep black and white infrared conversion. I've always been a big fan of this look and sometimes use a preset in my RAW files to achieve a faux infrared file. Faux, how would you pronounce that? F-A-U-X?
Yeah, faux, as in faux leather.
Yeah, I already have 2 complete Fuji kits, so I have no issue with the X100 being a one-trick pony. From what I have read, mirrorless cameras are great candidates for infrared conversion.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or suggestions? I have attached a file of a recent photo converted to infrared with a preset. I would love to achieve this look straight out of camera.
Well, actually, a few people, I'm trying to think, who was it that showed me?
Jeremy.
Oh, it was Jeremy, wasn't it? Jeremy Baker showed me his converted GFX. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't infrared though, was it? That was black and white conversion.
Yeah, so there's you can have infrared and you can have black and white. Now, right, Fujifilm did make infrared XT3s, I think. But they were you couldn't just buy them in the shops. They were for the military and the police and all that kind of stuff. See in the dark, secret stuff. Yeah. And you can send your cameras off to get these things done. My personal opinion on the original X100 is don't. Purely because I think that's a classic camera and given time, it might be an investment.
It's like sticking a CD player in an old MG. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's a good analogy there. I like that. So personally I wouldn't do it, but however, you can. And you do get some. I always think that infrared pictures always look like it's been snowing.
Yeah, but that's the point.
Always looks like snow.
I find them fascinating, but I can only look at them for so long before I think, right, done that. Yeah.
I look at them and I think it's snowing. Yeah. But yeah, they can. I particularly like the ones of like trees and meadows and things like that. They look amazing.
It's a sort of ethereal kind of fairy tale look, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really nice actually, but it's not something I'm interested in. I have to say, monochrome slightly different, infrared. Yeah, it's a very subjective thing, isn't it? Some people love it, some people don't. There's whole books, you can buy photo books that are all infrared photography. So
do you ever get the original X100 out and give it a whirl?
Yeah, sometimes.
Do you?
I do. Yeah. I've still got hundreds of those little tiny slimy batteries that I used.
I forgot about it. It was different batteries, wasn't it?
Yeah, and none of those you can't charge any of those on USB. In fact, it doesn't probably even have a USB connection. So I do get out every now and again just to, like give it a little bit of a stroke.
Yeah. Don't let it anywhere near Monty. You'd have it.
Sniff it, piss on it.
That's the rule for Monty. God, the bleep machine's going to be busy this week. I did consider recently, somebody said to me, why do you bother bleeping everything? And I thought, well, partly because, and that's what some people call sound effects, by the way. I always thought the sound effects was when we added in Donald Trump,
don't be rude,
that sort of thing. But we don't use those so much these days. People, I was talking to somebody and he said, oh, no, I mean where you bleep out the words. That's what I mean by the sound effects. Too many. Well, and that either means that we curse too much, but I always thought make it reasonably family friendly.
Yeah,
but then the problem
I would
with
love it if you didn't bleep out my swear words.
Really?
I listened to the podcast last week. You cut out half of my sentences.
Sometimes, Kev, you're terrible.
I was like, I'm sure I said something a bit different at that point.
No, I don't think you're doing it. Well, from 200 then, if 200 continues, because we need some questions in Facebook.
Adult, let's go adult.
Sure, that'll be the big release of the 200.
Edition.
You can really hear what Mullins says. Because the point was made by this guy I was talking to, and I'm not going to say his name so he's not embarrassed, but he said, yeah, but the kids, they ask more questions because they wonder why there's a sheep suddenly or a horn or something like that. So actually it draws more attention to it than if you just said the word.
I've never been so excited for next week's episode now. That's it. I'm going to get my lexicon of swear words out.
Have we made that then the policy? Yeah, is that the biggest thing we can offer from episode 200? Well, just the only other thing that worries me is that even though we're not directly sponsored by them or told what to do by them, what were the chiefs of We Shall Consider say?
They'd probably say something in Japanese.
That's a bad word.
That I'm not going to say because, I'll probably get it completely wrong and it'll mean something.
Oh, you surely have never heard any of the team say anything that's base. We shall not comment. Right. This week's guest. It's quite. I do. All joking aside, at the start, when I was being reasonably flippant about it, I think it is quite a responsibility when somebody says who's a photographer, who's a wedding photographer with 500 under their belt as you have. That's a fair. There's a fair amount of flying, Kev, in wedding terms.
550.
551. 551. Oh, see, it's going up all the time. So at 551, to be asked by that photographer to photograph their wedding, even if you've got more weddings under your belt, it's still quite. I would have thought. Is it worrying? Is it nerve-wracking? Does it make you anxious? Do you think, as a photographer that gets asked to photograph another photographer's wedding?
Well, we shall find out.
Yeah. Here's Anna McCarthy.
So a few months ago, I asked you if you would come along to my event. And there was a few people that I wanted to come as guests and as other photographers. And for whatever reason, mostly because they were working, shooting weddings and stuff like that, you were the only one that came along. And you graciously brought your camera and took, I have to say, made the most amazing memories for Gemma and I. It was really wonderful. How did you feel it went?
Oh, well, I felt that there were a couple of things that really helped it be better than perhaps it would have been. One of them was that I bought 2 days before the 28mm lens. As you know, I'm still on my dinosaur cameras. I'm still working with a camera that's probably no longer even being sold, a DSLR. Although I did bring the X100V with me, and it's all a bit blurry towards the end, Kevin, but I think I mixed in a few there as well. But yes, I think what happened was I used to have that lens, and right at the start, I had just these fixed lenses, and the 28 was one of them. And somewhere along the line, perhaps it's because I did sort of emanate more towards portraiture in a way with my work. It went by the by, and the 35mm was always there. But just a couple of days before, I was I suppose what I like to do with all my work is to think about the client. So, you asked me to do this, and I thought, well, I know a little bit what Kevin likes and what Gemma likes, and I'm going to get this lens because it's going to help me to get the sorts of pictures that perhaps your family would like, which were more storytelling pictures.
Yeah, and you did it amazingly well, absolutely amazingly well. You kindly just said about the X100V and said there's some blurry pictures at the end, and that's
no, not blurry. I meant that it was blurry because you and everyone had had a drink by then, and it was getting a little late. I don't mean that the camera was blurry. But
no, but they were, because you handed me your X100V late at night, and it was all set up so differently to the way I have mine. Yeah. I just kind of snapped away, and then you sent me some of the pictures.
Yeah, and that's an interesting kind of point of discussion in itself, isn't it? About how you shoot and how you have your camera set up.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember you handing it to me, and this was just after you'd taken over the DJing.
Oh yeah, I love that. Although I failed at that abysmally.
Gave me the rocking the dance floor, gave me the X100V and said, Kev, take some pictures. So I did, and they turned out absolutely rubbish.
Yeah, it was hilarious when I gave you that camera, because I think you came along and you had a beer in your hand and you said, Anna, have you had a drink yet? And I said, no, I haven't. Here's a camera, go and take some pictures. And you think you came back in about 5 minutes when I can't take pictures with this.
Yeah, it's amazing. If things aren't set up, as you know, then it's weird. Yeah. So now, rather than kind of this being about you photographing my wedding as such, let's talk a little bit about what it's like as a professional photographer photographing any other professional photographer's wedding. I've done that myself several times, and I always have a level of nervousness that's above and I'm always nervous before a wedding, but I always have a level of nervousness that's above and beyond what the norm is. And how did it manifest for you? Did you?
Well, I also get really nervous, and I think I've got to the point now where I get so nervous that I almost have found a way to get over it by just accepting that I'm going to feel like that, and then I'm always fine once I get going. Photographing another photographer's wedding. Well, I have photographed a number of photographers' weddings and artists, people, designers, artists, people who are interested and have a love of the arts, and there is no doubt that you feel that additional pressure. And of course I did feel it with you because, you're a fantastic photographer and you've got a huge following and respect. But somehow, of course, you kind of made it, another thing that made it very easy was that, you weren't paying me. So, it was like any picture I got was a bonus. And I wanted to do this as a thank you. And you literally said, I just want you to shoot the ceremony and then put your camera down. Of course, I didn't. And part of the reason that I don't do that is because that's part of the reason I became a photographer. I am actually a very sociable person. I absolutely love people and I love meeting new people, and I am in a way in my element, but I'm in an element when I've got my camera because I feel I can also hide, and I am quite a shy person as well. And there's this sort of contradiction between being very sociable, loving chatting to people, and of course at your wedding I was also a guest, so there was that added thing of me stopping taking photos and sitting down and chatting to your mum or your dad or your kids or whatever.
Yeah, I suppose to put it in context, although we were getting married in the church, it was a multi-event thing, basically. That's why I keep calling it a thing.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it on the podcast before, so people probably know that Gemma was being baptized, confirmed, First Holy Communion, and we did our Catholic wedding all at the same time. It was like some kind of world record. The priest is convinced he should be in the Guinness Book of Records. So to me, always the most important part was the ceremony, and that's why I asked you really to, I was mostly only interested in that ceremony element of it. And I feel like we shared the pictures with all our friends and families. Our friends, by the way, are constantly saying, "When's Anna back? When's Anna back?" The boys want you to come to Dad's night.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I must get down. They were just great fun. We just had such a laugh, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a whole weekend, and it was really good fun. But it was never meant to be, this big posh affair. It was in the hall opposite our house,
and that's what made it, because we've all photographed lots of weddings, and of course, weddings are wonderfully romantic events, but they are also often a performance and wonderful to take in that, but it's always just so refreshing when, and I suppose quite a lot of my clients do put an awful lot of money, effort and time into their weddings, and a lot of pressure. And I think it's always wonderful. And I mean, I feel like this. I feel like when I retire and I don't have to earn money from this job, I cannot wait to get out and just photograph without the money element being involved.
Did you find yourself photographing it in a different mindset or a different style to how you would perhaps, a total stranger's event?
No, not really, Kevin. I mean, I don't know. I suppose I was, let's be honest, I was aware that you are very much an observer and you very much don't like to interact, I think. Is that the right way to say it? And you like to be a fly on the wall. And that's not to say that you don't get right in physically and close, but you're a very quiet observer. I am, but actually I'm also not. And I do talk to people. I'm just a mishmash, I think. There was a post in Facebook last night, I think it was, with someone saying, it's important to have a style. And, I don't think I've got a style, and I don't think I care too much about it, although I don't think I perhaps have the talent enough to have a style. I don't know. But to me, I just go and shoot it, and opportunities come and I see pictures and maybe I might direct someone a little bit very, very quickly. Or I think sometimes when you engage with people, you don't necessarily get less of the truth. For example, there's a picture of, and also I'm always copying. I mean, I think of photographers when I'm taking pictures. I thought of Wayne Law when I was taking some of the pictures. I thought of August Sander when I took one picture. Three boys, the three brothers, the two boys who had a little baby brother.
Yes, I do, yeah.
And they were standing and the older boy was holding the baby, which is all I always find incredibly touching when a teenage boy is holding his baby brother like that. And then the other boy was just standing and I didn't direct it, but they were there. They knew I was there and I think I said something. And then I took this shot and I really love that shot. It makes me feel happy when I take something like that because there's just an atmosphere. I can't really explain it. And of course, it reminded me of August Sanders. Not that I'm an August Sander, but it reminded me of that.
Yeah,
well, copycat, really, Kevin.
You just said that you're not sure if you have the talent or not, and I can tell you 100% you definitely do, because I was like, oh my god, I was actually thinking, wow, there are pictures here that I would not even have thought about taking, and things you saw that I would not have. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel, if I could ask you a question, do you feel that you love them more because it's your family, it's your event?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Can you separate yourself? Because I always find, one has an incredibly emotional response to things that are personal to you. That's
really interesting because often, we have conversations as photographers, how we're our own worst critics and all of that kind of stuff. And, we're not sure whether the bride will like this picture and the groom will like that, et cetera, et cetera. And we can never, ever be in the situation where we can actually join up the dots and include emotion with those opinions.
Yes.
And so when you're emotively attached to images, as well as physically attached to the composition and the picture itself, then there's a completely added dynamic that we rarely, if ever, get to experience as the professional photographer. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, seeing the pictures, I'm glancing through them now as we speak. It literally is like reliving the day, which is exactly what it should be. It's not something that we can, that we can easily put into words, really.
No.
When it's your own pictures.
And I think that's the proofs in the pudding, isn't it, with that actually just slightly getting off your clever photographer, stand and, this whole discussion of a photographer's picture, which I think Alex Friedrichsen brought up the other day, didn't she, in a question on your FujiCast, and pictures that will just simply, naturally, emotionally record the emotion, the romance, the whatever it is, the humour of an event. At the end of the day, we get tied up in knots. And perhaps that's one of the things when you're photographing, like we said, a photographer's wedding, that, you know, of course I wanted to impress you, impress the listeners, impress my other photographers by getting something that I know they would enjoy photographically. But ultimately, I think probably I've been doing it long enough to think, actually, no, I'm a working photographer and I just want to please the client. And I do want to, of course, I also do love it when I get a shot that pleases me. For example, those rather drunk, dope-infused blokes in the pub in the window. I don't know.
That's brilliant. That reflection shot. Yeah.
Someone put a comment on there and just put dope, and it was really funny because when I was taking those pictures, I couldn't really quite see, so I was trying to sort of expose for the scene, for the wedding scene.
Yeah.
But there was this dark kind of ness in the pub and these guys in there, and they thought it was very funny that I was there, so they sort of caught sight of me and then got bored.
Yeah.
But then at the end, I kind of thanked them and went up to the window, and this guy's eyes were like bright red.
I sent it to my mum, and you know, she's kind of took a little while before she came back, and she was just like, oh, they're amazing, you know, really amazing. And obviously, you know, she really loved the kind of ceremony part of things, but also she was really chuckling at some of the images later on.
Was she all right with the ones I took? Because she really did have a few moments of proper tears, didn't she?
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting thing about how you approach people when they're in tears, and you don't know the agenda. You know, you don't know whether they're tears of joy or what. But that's a moment, isn't it, as a photographer, when you decide to photograph that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they were great, and it wouldn't be a family occasion with my mum if there wasn't tears somewhere down the line. So yeah, no, perfect, absolutely perfect. I love that picture of Rosa and I crushing my mum.
Yeah, with the glasses coming off.
With their glasses pointing up and tears rolling down her eyes. But also later on, when, you know, a lot of people kind of, I say a lot of people, but a lot of the family disappeared. You know, kind of 8 or 9 o'clock, and then we were all outside, and it was you that went to the laptop and started playing the music, I think.
Yes.
And then
I love music, and I fancy myself as a bit of a DJ, but I'm definitely not the career for me. Really nerve-wracking because because also you haven't really got them lined up, so it's really random, and the song's coming to the end. You slow down, I haven't got the next one ready.
You know, because I've been married before, obviously, many years ago, and you know, we did have a photographer actually to that first wedding, but it was in the days of film. I don't even remember the pictures. I, you know, haven't seen them for a very, very long time. Don't have them any longer. That kind of stuff. And I often did think, I wonder what it would be like as a photographer getting married and having, you know, being photographed. Mm. So, you know, when the thing happened, you know, I wanted to make sure that I was in the moment rather than kind of thinking, oh, I wonder what she's doing now or anything. And the fact is, the truth of it is that I just didn't see you at all. I mean, of course, in certain moments when you were right in front of us, that's different. But generally, overall, you did exactly what I always try and do, which is essentially just blend in, be a guest. Although I don't do the DJing and get pissed at the end of the night. But maybe I should.
There were a couple of moments. One in the church when you hadn't opened that bloody door at the back for me, and then and I was cursing you. I was cursing you, and there you were, sort of saying your prayers in church, and I was cursing. Open this door. And then Father, what was his name? I can't remember his name.
Deacon Steve or Father Thomas, one of them.
He's so lovely. I mean, I do find Catholic. You know, if I'm going to convert to any religion, it's going to be Catholicism, just by dint of the fact that they are just so human, those people. So he opened it, but then for some reason it slammed, and I thought, oh God, I've got this clunky shutter, I've got this slamming door. God, what's Kevin going to think? It was funny. But then also just before the service, I think I saw that arch just, you know, because it's quite hectic on the street, isn't it, opposite that church with the cars and everything.
Yeah.
And I saw that little, you know, I do see pictures and have ideas And obviously I was toying up in my head that, Kevin doesn't like this kind of thing. He doesn't like to be posed. But then I was thinking, but maybe Gemma would like a picture like that. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't really had a conversation with her. And Kevin says, do his thing. So that's when I said, just, can you go in there, guys? But I'm sorry, because I don't think, I don't know how you found it, but it was about 30 seconds, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it was fine. It was right outside the church, and you're right, because I don't particularly like kind of posing things. You're right. You're right to think about Gemma, and yeah, it's a lovely picture. Absolutely.
I guess you're just thinking, these people might not come together that much, and it's a nice one for the kids to have, maybe. But,
it's actually probably the one that my mum has probably got desktop wallpaper or something now.
You both look very cool.
Yeah, I like the ones, we were walking back through the Abbey and stuff up along the street, and you captured people walking along the streets and everything. And one of my favourite ones is actually the one where we're walking back to the house, because Gemma and I went back to the house to drop off some stuff, and the house is literally opposite where we're having the party. And it's a lovely picture, because it really, I'm forever saying things like, don't forget, take pictures of your own front doors, take pictures of your houses and all that kind of stuff. And this is great, because it's got the, we had flowers on our windowsill and all that kind of stuff. We're in it. The color, the doors are there. The neighbor's house is there. It shows off the, the cottage and everything. And so I really like that as well. And that's the kind of picture that I like to take also, but it's not the kind of picture that many people would take at a wedding, So it was lovely.
But you do have, saying that, I don't know, with photography, I feel anything I've decided, maybe it's just coming up to, well, I'm not even going to say how old I'm going to be next month, but maybe it's coming up to this age that I look back and I just sort of think that everything with photography is a bunch of contradictions, the whole thing. You can say something and then you say, well, that's not an absolute, actually. I'm amazed by the innovation still when you go onto Instagram. Yes, there are a lot of pictures. And by the way, Kevin, at least I didn't get Gemma to drag you up a mountain on your wedding day to take a photo.
Yeah, the nearest one's Cleve Hill, which is about 45 miles away. So
no, it was very clever of you to make sure it wasn't near a mountain. But yeah, so to be positive, I'm just constantly like, wow, there is new stuff. There is new innovation. But I suppose if I'm to be really honest about my own photographers that I love, I probably am very similar to you. I love the past, and I love, I'm inspired by a lot of the people from the past. But still, it's wonderful that despite all this, there are people quietly doing kind of new things.
Do you think you would have the same passion for it if nobody ever in the entire world, imagine Vivian Mayer, who never saw any of her own pictures. Would you think you'd have the same passion if nobody else ever saw any pictures that you took?
I think I've got to the point in my life where I really am so sort of immersed in it still. And of course, you very kindly and patiently helping me do that website, because my website before lockdown was absolutely terrible. I had let go. Then lockdown struck, and I think maybe I'm going to be an English teacher. Maybe I'm going to go and do something else. Maybe this is it. I've had fun. I'm going to give it up. And then we were locked down, and of course doing that website was a big undertaking, which I made rather a meal of. I actually want to do it again and make it totally the opposite, but there we go. Probably won't do that for another 10 years. But yeah, I think that I'm so, it is, I don't take photos every day. I'm not obsessive. And I don't get inspired, and but most of the time it's what I like to do for lots of other reasons other than making money. And I like to think that when I do hang up my boots, I will go and do some useful things, but I'm not quite sure what they are. I look back to the photographers like even Bill Brandt, and Revilius, who did, they went and documented things for the government, for the council, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they documented things that were that were vanishing, that were fading away. For the history books, I mean, I absolutely love Bill Brandt. There's a book, I've got it on my desk here actually, because I thought if we dried up with nothing to say, we could talk about this book. And it's called Homes Fit for Heroes, and it's his photographs of just people living in these new homes. I think it's in the 50s. Oh, actually, no, sorry, it's in the 40s. No, yeah, it's early 40s actually, during the war. So yeah, I like to have a thought in my mind's eye that I would put a rucksack on my back and go and do something, but it would need to be something that was going to have a purpose, I think.
It is fantastic. And you are fantastic. And you made some amazing pictures for us. So Anna, thank you so much for not only creating our pictures, but also being on the show. Where can everybody find you if they want to? Instagram, website, all that stuff?
AnnaMcCarthy.com is my website. Right, Instagram is Anna McCarthy Photography.
Now, sincere thanks to Anna McCarthy. All links to Anna's work, of course, will be on the show page today. Be sure to go there for links to what you've heard, and I think we'll pop up a link to August Sander too, since Anna mentioned him. Now, if you get to the end of today's show and think, oh, I want more Mullins, well, you can. He's on IncapableStaircase.com, the internet radio station, every Thursday, where you'll hear him indulging in his other passion. No, not Star the Horse, but country music. As alter ego Country Boyo, it's Kev's radio show that goes out 3:30 p.m. live. So if you want to hear the raw nerves, that's the best time. Or otherwise, you can catch up through the website as well. And if you like your podcasts, I have my Photography Daily Show every Friday, where on that day it is Location Show. Me with my microphone, out on a walk, a camera to make pictures, and I take along you with your camera and your earbuds, so we can exchange ideas and the letters received in the digital mailbag, but also special guests pop up with small trinkets of inspiration.
Your big moments tend to be one picture, one production, one soundtrack, rather than a collection.
I mean, my entire life, the reason I went traveling is photography. If I didn't have a camera in my hand, I don't think I would have been motivated to go travel.
Yeah, I think a pursuit of wisdom. And that's why portraiture for me, in the sense of every portrait session I've done, I feel like I've gained something from the subject or the model.
And we have a main guest too, who this week is Simon Baxter, with quite some story. A mountain bike accident left Simon in chronic debilitating pain, but the arrival of a dog called Meg and a rekindled interest and love of photography has led him to being a very admired woodland photographer in the UK, with a healthy interest on YouTube for his sincere love of what he does.
There's lots of different forms of stimulus in terms of sight, smell, sound, but that's constantly shifting. So with every single step forward or step to the side, visually, aesthetically, everything's shifting all the time. It's chaotic. There's a lot to consume. So to try and make sense of that with the camera is quite a task, really. So it needs your undivided attention. So your thought processes start to shift away from the stresses of everyday life, away from pain. When something has such a profound effect and a positive impact upon your life, you become very emotionally invested into it.
I promise you, you'll never be able to walk through woodland again without thinking of it in a kind of different sense. We're talking inspiration, we're talking isolation, and we're talking introversion, the 3 I's. Plus many other subjects too on the only photo podcast that goes on a weekly photo walk. Photography Daily is available wherever you get your podcasts. Right, back to your questions.
Is it a QQ? Is it a QQ?
A Q? No, this is not a QQ. This is an LQ. This is an LQ, actually. In fact, I've got an LLQ. If you want, what do you want, the LQ or the LLQ?
Let's have the LLQ.
Ah, right. Well, this has changed direction. This is from Pete Foot. Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Kev. Question's a bit mundane. Oh, no. But important, I think, nonetheless. Security for photographic equipment when travelling. Recently, my partner Jill and I managed to get a holiday in the UK. Where'd you get one of those in these times? And I was deciding which camera to take with me as we were staying in a hotel guest house. He put in brackets. What's the difference between a guest house and a hotel? Is it one of those places, Kev, like B&Bs, where they put up a long list of things you can't do? No singing, no arriving after 12, no slamming the doors, no using the main bathroom. Is that a guest house?
A guest house is when you open the door in the middle of the night and the owner is stood outside. That's a guest house. In a hotel, they don't bother doing that.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, I always feel a bit awkward about that.
Yeah. Guest houses, living in someone else's house.
Yeah, no, it is a bit weird, isn't it? Because you always feel like they might sort of peep around the door. Are you okay? Do you need tucking in? No, I'm all
do you
right.
want some sugar? Yeah. What would you like for your breakfast? I don't want any breakfast, thanks. Oh, what? Growing boy like you need some breakfast. I'll do you some Marmite on toast and eggs. No, it's all right. I don't want any breakfast. Oh, of course you do.
That's it.
And then what do you want for 11 o'clock? I'll do some nice jam donuts. I'll do you a jam donut. I don't want any jam donuts. No, I'll do you a jam donut. What time will you be back for your dinner, do you think?
Oh, no,
I don't think I'm coming back for my dinner. Well, dinner will be on the table at 5 o'clock. Right, that's it. I'm going to Travelodge.
And they have, guest houses as well have television rooms, don't they?
Yeah, that's right.
We got our television room. It's full of Laura Ashley wallpapers.
Yeah, and it's a CRT TV with a massive backside.
That's it. It's been there since 1975. It's still black and white. Anyway, it was on the Isle of Wight, so it probably is. I began thinking, I like the Isle of Wight, though. I began thinking, do I lock my equipment in the boot of my car? Do I leave it in the hotel room? Or do I carry it with me? Anyway, I emailed the accommodation. It's not even a guest house now. In advance, asking them if they had safes in each room, and they confirmed that they did. So I asked for the approximate dimensions. That's where it starts to get weird, isn't it? Can you tell me the dimension of your safe, please? I'm bringing a small dog. When it duly arrived, it was a perfect fit for my most expensive camera, which I subsequently took with me. When we entered the room, we couldn't find the safe anywhere. I was about to go to reception, and Jill said, "Found it." Bit strange, because she was in the bathroom at the time. But sure enough, the safe was there underneath the sink in a cupboard. None too impressed with that environment, hot steam and so on, for keeping my precious camera. I investigated further. To my surprise, was able to lift the safe out, which wasn't secured in any way and weighed about the same as a bag of sugar. Anyway, holiday went, photography went well. Most importantly, nothing was nicked. But it did get me thinking, chaps. What do other photographers do to protect their equipment, in particular? I think he means kit in terms of cameras. In particular, you guys, when whether that be one of your wedding shoots or when you're staying in a hotel on holiday. Any tips, tricks and secrets to share? He does have a second part, which we'll come to in a moment. But let's start with security. It is actually quite an important question because it's something that bugs me whenever I travel anywhere. It's that, you end up in a restaurant, you carry all your camera equipment with you. What have you brought with you? Why are you staying in the restaurant? Are you sleeping here?
Yeah, see, these things don't go through my mind, I have to say. I just leave it down, if the worst thing happens, which, God forbid it does to anybody.
Touch wood, Kev, don't say this, don't say this.
It's insured, that's
yeah, no, but the day before a wedding gig, the last thing you want, as you're being asked what time you're coming back for dinner, is to be thinking, well, I haven't got my kit for today's gig, I'm going to have to give all the money back.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I've usually got an X100 kicking around somewhere in the car or something. So, if all my stuff's been nicked the night before a wedding, then, probably the last thing I'll be thinking about is that. So, I don't know. I just don't. It's not something that really consciously goes through my mind, I have to say.
On holiday, though, do you put stuff in safes? I know I do.
Well, I don't really go on holiday. I mean, we go to, the only time...
Spain, I suppose. Yeah,
over the last kind of 10 years, we've only ever been to like Spain and West Wales, and West Wales is another friend's house. So yeah, I don't really have that. I mean, I've done quite a lot of business trips and stuff, and Japan and all over the place, Argentina and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I don't, when I'm on holiday, I literally take, last year in Spain, I think I took my X100 and I might have taken the X70 as well. So, I don't generally take lots of stuff when I'm going on holiday or on little business trips. But if I'm shooting, yeah, you're right. I mean, you do need to be cautious. I don't leave anything in the car overnight. I just bring it in, and
I never leave stuff in cars.
No, I mean, what you could do, but potentially, and I have this, but I've never used it, is you could get one of those Kensington locks, which is like an armored cable.
Yeah.
You tie that to your bag. Make sure your bag's locked, obviously. Tie that to your bag, and then tie that to the radiator.
Yeah.
And probably probably as good as it's going to get, because if somebody's going to break into your room in a hotel, it's going to be a quick in, quick out kind of thing. They're not going to be fanning about trying to get your bag open and your Kensington lock and all that kind of stuff.
I think it was Edmund Terracopian that says whenever he goes to a hotel, he locks his bag to radiators.
Yeah, that's
he's super cautious with his kit. And actually, I can't remember whether it was him or whether it was somebody else that gave me a warning to say, there are certain hotels, expensive hotels within London, where there's been a lot of kit go missing, and it wasn't the guests. You have to read between the lines now, and it wasn't the guests that were nicking stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a consideration as well. I just don't have that in my mind.
Does it ever bother you when you leave your bag at a venue? And so I've started doing what Edmund suggested. Actually, I do use that cable, and I cable it to things. I cable it to the vicar's leg, or who's going to steal him?
No, I don't. It doesn't. No, I mean, I do. I'll normally say to the wherever the wedding is, is there somewhere I can stick my bag? Well, normally I'll just go and stick it under the drinks table or something like that. One would hope that you're with the people who are not going to be doing that kind of stuff. And if you are unlucky enough to be in that situation, then it's jolly bad luck, and we all get bad luck every now and again. Yeah. But I don't think. I don't want to be going into weddings and saying, "Oh, and if there's nowhere for me to put my bag, I'm going to carry it around with me all day."
Oh God, yeah. Do you ever forget where you've put the bag? I have.
Yeah, sometimes, not often. But
now, did I put that over there, or oh my God, someone's nicked my bag? Oh no, they haven't. It's over there.
I remember when I was 18. I would have been about 20 because I couldn't drive. And me and some mates did the Route 66.
At 20, Kev, you couldn't drive.
I could drive, but not in the United States.
Oh yeah.
We'd gone to the United States, and we were doing Route 66. There was 5 of us, and we did Route 66 for 2 weeks. And I was the only one that was under 21, so I couldn't drive. So I sat in the back of the car drinking beer all the time. It was brilliant. Yeah. And we went absolutely everywhere, everywhere. And on our last night, we were flying back from LA, and we did it really cheap. We just stayed in all these cheap hotels, motels, all that kind of stuff. And we went to this motel, and the woman we pulled up in our car, and the woman on the door had a gun, and she was stopping people going in, and it was a really, really dodgy neighborhood, like really dodgy.
Can you imagine her in a guest house saying, "What time are you home for dinner?" Whatever time you say.
And we went in, we dumped our stuff and everything, and then we decided to go and try and find a bar, which was about a 20-mile walk. And we found this bar, the first bar that didn't look like we were going to go in and get our throats cut. And we went in, and the woman said, "Right, do you have your ID?" Everybody had their passport on them apart from me. So you can drink, but you couldn't drive. So I was like, "Oh crap!" So I had to go back and get my passport. So I walked all the way back to the hotel. Walked up the stairs, and it was one of those ones with a swimming pool with no water, just a shopping trolley in the bottom. And I walked up the steps to our hotel room, and it was a motel, so it was outside. Yeah. And the door was open, so in I walked, and there was this woman, and she as soon as I walked in, she went, "Oh, I'm cleaning. I'm the cleaner," and then just ran out, ran away. And I was like, don't think you were the cleaner. Yeah. And she hadn't broken in or anything. The door had been opened. Yeah. So I got my passport and went back to the pub.
Yeah. With all your cash, I should think, as well.
We didn't have much by the end of it.
Not leaving it there. So security, yeah. Well, Kev's got a sort of what you might call a laissez-faire approach to it. But
that doesn't mean that I'm right, by the way. It just means that I'm probably lazy.
So hang it out with a flag on saying "free kit here today, cheap, twice the price," or whatever that phrase is.
What I will caveat is make sure it's insured. All of my stuff is insured within an inch of its life. That's the key thing.
And I do lock stuff to radiators, but also I look at a venue, and this is probably not a good thing. I look at a venue and think, and people and think, "Oh, you all look all right to me. We'll leave that over there."
Yeah.
So that's just as laissez-faire, really. Because you can't tell, can you, Kev?
No, not at all.
The one thing about security that bothers me a little bit is when you leave a job and you've got all your kit with you.
Yeah.
That does bother me, and I separate my cards out from the kit at that stage.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a separate conversation. But I know a couple of photographers who've had their gear nicked from the car park and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's I keep my backup stuff in the car, but I don't, I make sure that everything I need comes with me into the venue.
He had a second part of the question, did Pete? The other point of the message is that sometimes you say we're getting very low on questions. This seems apposite that you should have chosen this one. So I thought, my thought is, why not on each session have a customer section, a customer response section? This sounds like a whole new department. E.g., you read out a customer question, but give both your thoughts on it, but then invite your listeners to submit their suggestions, and I'm sure there's a wealth of experience and ideas out there which may be currently relatively untapped.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, my question could be a test for that, ? How do your listeners manage security? There we go.
We should set up one of those 0898 telephone numbers that people can ring in and say, I'd like to add to the question.
Not the 0898s, weren't they for something different, Kev?
Oh, okay. Yeah. 01633 numbers is.
I'm not sure that, yes. But that's a good idea. Maybe we should.
You must be able to do that with all your jiggery-pokery stuff over there.
Well, I have found that
violin system.
Yeah, I have found though that when I think email and messages are good because you can read between lines, etc. And sometimes people are a bit frightened off by leaving audio messages. But certainly send your suggestions in. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and maybe reach out for some audio questions if we get past episode 200. Because episode 200 next week currently is all about cursing and not about questions.
Yeah, well, you might be hearing it by yourself, because if there ain't no more questions by next week, that's it. I ain't bothering.
Yeah.
No, what's the point?
Anyway, he says, I'm just going to add to the listener section. Best wishes from Pete.
That was an LLQ, wasn't it?
It was an LLQ, yeah. The LQ's just a little bit less, but not much. Do you want to do one of your Facebooks? Then we'll do the book of the week.
Yeah, so I'm reaching back into the depths of time now. I'm going back to 8 weeks because, in case you hadn't noticed, we haven't had any new questions. This one's from John Kelly, and he says, "Hi, Kev and Neale.
Sorry, Kev. Can I just say though, it's important that there will be some people thinking, "Oh, right, that's gone down the tubes." Then actually, the downloads have gone up and up and up. It's just the uploads of your question have gone down and down and down. Anyway, Kev, sorry.
And also remember, folks, that the questions do not necessarily have to be about Fujifilm cameras, don't even have to be about photography necessarily. It could be about business, could be about about rugby or judo.
What?
Could be about chess. It could be about other interesting things like that.
Kev's just chosen his 3 hobbies. Go on, read that question.
So John says, "Hi, Kev and Neale. I returned to my love of photography to help me with the symptoms I experienced from PTSD following RAF service in Iraq.
Yeah.
And when I haven't got my trusty XT2 in my hands, listening to you two calms my speeding brain. So many thanks for that. My question is there a way I can exhibit my work that won't cost an absolute fortune? Galleries and exhibit spaces that I have contacted so far, quote, into the thousands. And that's before any printing or framing. I am proficient in most aspects of photography, but this has me stumped. Many thanks. Stay safe. All the best."
Oh, you could choose to try some online galleries, can't you? Some really good online gallery software as well. Or is that the right word? Not software.
Mm-hmm. System.
Yeah. Platforms, yeah, that help you sort of navigate your way around as if it was a real one.
Yeah, you can do that kind of stuff. My kind of approach would probably be coffee shops. Local restaurants, that kind of thing. Even if you're not necessarily interested in selling it, you can. Literally all the coffee shops in Malmesbury all have some kind of artwork, local artwork on the walls, and not all of them are for sale. They just recycle them, not recycle them, but cycle through different artists. And it's just that's usually a good way, and that's definitely free. Yeah. But if you are thinking of sticking a price tag on things, then you offer the shop a little bit of commission, and that's probably the approach I would take. You're right. You'll be right about gallery spaces now, especially if they're dedicated galleries. They are going to need to make money out of it. Yeah. But our town hall, for example, which is you go into the town hall, on the left hand side you've got a coffee shop, on the right hand side you've got a museum, and in the middle you've got the the old school rooms and all that kind of stuff where the councillors go and ruin decisions. But in the middle of it is this basically a big atrium. Yeah. And they always have artists. It's not always photography, but painting and all that kind of stuff. And that's really cheap. They do charge for it, but it's cheap. They normally do kind of 3-month installations there. So yeah, things like that. Council stuff will be cheaper, but dedicated galleries will be very much expensive.
There's a restaurant in Newbury, close to us, called Indigo Bay. It's an Indian restaurant. Oh, it's a brilliant restaurant, Kev. It's one of my faves. And I'm just looking through the window here. I'm trying to get a window, but it's so much glare on it. For a long, long time, I made them 2 canvases, and they were on that. They were on that wall for at least 10 years, with my telephone number at the bottom as a photographer. And we in essence set up a food fight where the chefs were beating each other with various pots and pans. There might have been a bit cliche, but they were shot and they were on the wall for ages, and people used to talk about them. Say, "Oh yeah, you're the person that has the pictures in the Indigo Bay restaurant." So things like that, and they were delighted to have the pictures when I suggested it to them. I went to a number of cafes and restaurants, and there's a few that took them, Indigo Bay being the main one. They were delighted to have them. And so it's a really good way of showing your work. I sense that they may not have taken them down for so long, because when we put them up, I don't know what you're like, Kev, but if it's that sort of more powdery plaster behind a picture, I often end up wrecking the wall. So I managed to really cover it with these huge canvases. They're huge, they are massive, but they could never take them down because I think the wall would come down.
Yeah.
So
that's the kind of thing, isn't it? Get yourself in the Indigo Bay, go and get Neil's pictures off the wall, get some fresh stuff down there.
Well, you better be good at plastering if you're going to do that. But that is a really good idea, Kev. I think restaurants and cafes and stuff like that. I did hope that there's more shop. I don't know what it's like in Malmesbury, but certainly in Newbury, there's a lot more shops these days that sadly are no longer there. And I did think that these would be fantastic places, just whitewashed, to exhibit art, be that photographs or paintings or
but then the council want business rates. That's why they're empty.
Yeah, but this is the opportunity to show community spirit and help. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with you 100%. Try telling that to the councils.
Yeah, good point. Right, book of the week.
I'm not going to throw this on the table.
No, don't.
My coffee will go absolutely everywhere. In fact, I'm going to have to move my microphone. I'm going to have to readjust everything.
I want to find my one so that I can talk with you about it at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, I got a coffee stain on this.
No.
Yeah. Well, there's a coffee table book in there. That's what it's for.
Oh,
all right. So, yes. Right. Just let me get it because it is.
I'm going to get mine, Kev. Keep talking.
All right. Okay. So about Neil and this secret of his. So there was this time when he. Him and Sam, they went to this place, and it was I'm
back now.
Oh, are you?
Right. I just thought it's very rare that we have the same book. So, but this one, yes, I've got one.
You got the big one?
No, it's not the 7.5K one. No.
No. But I mean, have you got the?
Oh, look, there's a letter in the front of mine. There's a letter in the front.
There's a smaller one as well. Have you got the Tashan letter?
No, this is from Giles, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Dear Neil, just a small thank you. This is not a small thank you for all your support. Blah, blah, blah. There's some personal stuff in there, so I won't read the rest of it, but yeah.
So my version has got a whole leaflet in it because it's published by Tashen, who do amazing books.
Yeah. I know, I haven't got that leaflet.
Yeah, and this was obviously because I got it at the exhibition, it's showing... there's a detailed description of each of the frames in this little leaflet.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know if that comes in all the books.
No, it does not in this one.
But mine didn't come with a Giles
letter from Giles. No, it didn't. That's true.
No, exactly. Yeah. So right, let me just get myself to where I need to be, because I'm looking now actually on A-books. There's lots of different versions of this. There's an art edition B, which looks nice. That's 2 leather-bound versions of it. I quite like the look of that. But there's all kinds of different prints and stuff. The one I have is 2013. Is pretty much still available. I think you can still find it in most places. So it's going to be. I think you're going to be looking at somewhere between £60 and £100 for this, which seems pretty reasonable, to be honest with you. It
does look like this, yeah.
Yeah. So raised on a farm in Brazil, photographer Sebastiào Salgado possesses a deep love and respect for nature. He is also particularly sensitive to the ways in which human beings are affected by their often devastating socio-economic conditions. Of the myriad of works Salgado has produced in his acclaimed career, 3 long-term projects stand out. Workers, 1993, documenting the vanishing way of life of manual labourers across the world. Migrations, 2000, a tribute to a mass migration driven by hunger, natural disaster, environmental degradation, and demographic pressure. And this new opus, Genesis, which is the result of an epic 8-year expedition to rediscover the mountains, deserts, and oceans, the animals and peoples that have so far escaped the imprint of modern society. So there you go. It goes on to say that it was taken over 32 trips, traveled by foot, light aircraft, sea-going vessels, canoes, and even hot air balloons. There's that famous picture from a hot air balloon. And so, it's a big book. But being a Taschen book, a Taschen published book, it is absolutely beautiful. The print quality, the styling, everything. Of course, so it's a vertical book, which is, my pet peeve is this kind of splitting images across the spine of the book. But I had a conversation with the book publisher, and this is like a marketing decision, because you can't. A lot of bookshops, especially the kind of mainstream bookshops, prefer vertical books because otherwise people kind of trip into them and things like that. Wow. Anyway, the images really are just sublime.
And there are some pages, Kev, that actually have pullouts, aren't there? So,
there are some pullouts. Yeah, absolutely. There's pullouts. You've got indigenous people in the rainforest. You've got simple images of birds flying, gulls flying over their nests. You've got a lot of kind of wonderful landscape type stuff. Now, if I remember rightly, a lot of this was shot on a Canon 5D. I think if I remember the exhibition,
the original 5D, it would have been, wouldn't it? If you look at the age of the pictures.
I just remember from the exhibition that it was Canon stuff that he was shooting it with. So it is by and large, I would say maybe some of it might be from film, but the majority of it is digital photography. So if you flip to page 206, for example, you have these indigenous people, and it's a real kind of celebration of them, really. You've got some of them are making a raft of some kind, and you've got just general pictures of them being themselves, and then clearly a kind of set up portrait of one of the guys making a what looks like a bamboo mat. So there's a combination of kind of truly authentic, candid photography, and then a mix of celebratory photography of these people. So what I do really love about this book, though, is it's not necessarily something that you just have to kind of look through every page. You can literally pick it up and just think, wow. So 298, for example, I would say that this is, one of the more famous pictures. You've got the guy walking down from essentially at home, if you like, up in the hills, and the rest of his family looking down. Now, Salgado himself has said on many occasions that he has no problems in encouraging people to stand and sit where they should be.
So he may have orchestrated that stair walk, as it were.
Or maybe not. I mean, when I look at that particular picture, I'm perhaps not him, but the people stood outside the house, probably.
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't, that's definitely not a negative thing. It's, that's documentary photography can be as staged as you like. It's still telling a story. But I mean, I love it. There's some beautiful, beautiful portraits that are just timeless. And 402, for example, and you've got the little Inuit boy. It's just that kind of picture there could have been taken 300 years ago.
Yeah,
it's just superb. It's just superb. And, it's not one of those books where, it's all about the sublime nature of the technology that he's using. In some cases, you might think, you had to use maybe too slow a shutter speed there. But actually, it's making that picture stronger because he's putting movement into it for a reason. And I love that spread starting from page 442, and you've got this entire family, and they're just, it's incredible. They're all totally naked. But that's the way they live their life. That's it. And, they're not bothered by, what they look like or their clothes or anything like that. They're just bothered by being together and existing. There's a fantastic picture on 448. It's a spread, 448, 449.
The guy with the tree.
Yeah. It's almost Tarzan-like, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
He's swinging between the trees.
Amazing.
Yeah, incredible. Tough shot as well, technically tough shot with that light coming into it.
That very next page, by the way, the very next plate that you have, and I know this is going to agitate you slightly because it goes, 450 and 451, because it goes across the page. But at first when I looked at it, I just thought it was city lights, but it's not. Look, there's, are they gaiters or Crocs?
Yeah, no,
there's hundreds of them. Hundreds of them.
It does look like a city, like a city at night from a mountain.
It does, yeah.
But it's not. They're crocodiles, and the eyes, yeah.
They're all the way across the lagoon there. I assume they're all the eyes. That takes nerves of steel. I think I'd need to be doing that.
It does take nerves of steel
from within a tank. God,
yeah, it's just a wonderful book.
It is
really wonderful. Yeah. Absolutely. And if we talked about style at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that Salgado has got lots of different styles, and that is that manifests itself in this book. But actually, stylistically, they're all the same.
Yeah.
They're all beautiful. They all have the same tone to them, the same edit, the same finish. Yeah.
He's
got to the croc on 482. Oof.
It just makes you want to go on a road trip, doesn't it? To Africa.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, all over the place. Or Eritrea. I'd love to go to Eritrea.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's big. It's heavy.
And it's clever.
It's reasonably expensive if you're not necessarily into these things, but definitely one for the collectors out there, I think.
Yeah. He's a bit of a football fan as well, by the way, Salgado. I think I told you about this when during the Euros. I interviewed Henrik Saxgren, who's a big mate of Salgado, and they text each other with. And I don't know why I thought, now Salgado won't be there saying, "Oh, I just missed that. What is that?" I didn't think you'd get this text repartee that people share.
Is it true he's a Newport County fan?
Or maybe, if you want to believe it, Kev.
I did half expect to see some pictures of the indigenous people of Merthyr in that book, but they obviously missed the idea.
Too dangerous. I think it was much more sensible to be much more sensibler to be amongst all the crocs. Poor Merthyr.
We love you, Merthyr.
We do.
Actually, I don't.
Yes, you do. So the book is available. It's going to cost you a little bit more than some of the books that we talk about, but we'll have a link for you on the show.
If you're in the UK and you are looking for, and you're interested in starting a photo book collection, make sure you check out the Oxfam website. Because they have a lot of stuff on there. The online Oxfam website. Yeah. Obviously, it's good. It's good because it goes to charity. Obviously, it's all going to be secondhand, but they sometimes have some amazing things that have been sent in. It used to be that you'd be able to get a real good bargain on there, but I think now they've probably got a proper photo book curator on board. So the prices are pretty similar to what you might get on Ape books. But the fact is, it's going back to charity. So
I love it when you get a book where people have made notes in them. I know for some people that's just a complete, no. But for me, I quite like to find notes in them. You find what other photographers were feeling like. And
I like to find 5-pen notes in mine.
Yeah, that's the other thing, yeah. Right, one last question, Mark, and it might be the last of the whole show, Kev. So it's not going to be the LL, or the LQ, rather, because I'll save that or never ever use it. Because as of next week, it'll be just a few light curses, and thanks very much. It's been a great journey. Because it is our 200th next week.
It is, yeah, 200. Wow, who'd have thunk it?
So if you want to be on the 200th show, you want to get your questions in. If you want the 200th to be the last, don't bother.
So we need to make the 200th special. How are we going to do it?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, turning up, that'll be a start.
Turning up, yes. Well, we did say we weren't really making a big deal about the 200th, didn't we? Because we wanted to sort of have a show maybe back at the Hop.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously going to happen at some point, but not just yet.
Yeah. Mark Dell ends this week, though. Hi, gents. Thank you for a good show. Yada, yada. Quick question. It's a QQ, Kev. What's the most popular colour of the X100V in sales terms? What colour cameras do you have? I've got the silver one. I always prefer the X100s in silver. A bit more classy, he says.
I don't know which one sells the most. I have to say, I wouldn't.
It would have been an Andreas question, actually, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Andreas would know.
What do you think would sell the most? If you sort of had your marketing, put your marketing head on for a moment.
I would say probably for the X100, the silver one probably sells the most. But for the XT range, I would suggest the black ones sell the most. Personally, I prefer black all the time. Black. But
you had a silver original X100, though, didn't you?
They only did it.
Oh, did that? Yeah, I was going to say, yes, that'll be why then.
And then the XT4 that I bought recently, I also have in silver because I couldn't get a black one. They didn't have any in stock. So
and does it bother you, or have you gotten over that now?
It's not. I mean, it's not a bothering thing. It's just I prefer them to be black. I just don't. I'm not a big fan of I don't care what the cameras look like, to be honest with you. If they could make a camera that looked like a little square matchbox, and did the things it's meant to do, then I'd be very happy.
Well, who knows? Maybe one day they will.
Maybe, hopefully.
And that's it for this week. 199 done, Kev.
199.
Yeah, 199. 200th to come, or maybe. Thank you to this week.
You're going to dress up for next week?
I always dress up. I'm sitting here in my smoking jacket and tweed trousers as we talk. What do you dress up in for this show?
I better put some clothes on next week then.
Are you a bit like an image from Salgado's book?
A little bit, yeah. Right, yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose, yes. Well, we'll think about next week. We'll see. Do you remember what your parents used to say? We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Thank you to this week's guest, Anna McCarthy. Anna McCarthy, thank you very much. And if you feel it's relevant, we'd love you to leave a review. If you can share the episode on Twitter or Facebook, you are a star. Right, here come the questions then. Facebook. If you'd like to leave a question for the show, and Kev made a very good point, actually. It doesn't have to be loosely about photography. Otherwise, if it's about Kev's cooking, although he's not a bad cook, actually, Kev, then but send your questions in. So how do they do it for Facebook, Kev?
Facebook, go to the pin thread in the Facebook group, FujiCast Facebook group, more than welcome, of course, and there is a pin thread at the top. And I have been scrolling through as we've been going. There are some that we've missed from kind of weeks and weeks ago, and the reason for that is because sometimes they are very similar to other questions we've answered. So if I'm not picking them, it's not because I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing it because we've either recently covered it or it's kind of not relevant that week or something. So there are a few I can cherry pick from.
No, it's not. It's because Kev doesn't like you.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's that. Yeah.
That's why. Oh, can I quote you, by the way? I did write it down. Documentary photography can be as staged as you like. It's still telling a story.
Yeah?
That's a Kev quote.
Yeah, of course. Well, look at Jane Bown. She is still a documentary photographer in my mind.
Does that mean you're going to do more
portraitist?
Does that mean you're going to do more portraits now, Kev?
No.
Okay. But it's actually a good point. I've written that down because I want it to be a theme of something we talk about. Because I think you've made a point that I'd like to expand on further. Or if you want to send your emails in, you can send them to click@fujicast.co.uk. I thought it was a good idea, Kev, as well. If you want to expand on a question that somebody else has left, that's not a bad idea from Pete, is it?
No, absolutely. But just please make sure that it's very easy for us to understand what the question is relating to. That'll be difficult. And then by next week, Neil will have sorted out his degree potpourri and we'll be able to do phone-ins.
Yeah. Thanks, Kev. Music from Blue Wednesday, supporting music from the incredible artlist.io, and we will see you next week for number 200. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye!
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.